I want to talk to you guys about guns. Because I had this tweet. It's Friday, so I want to talk about my tweet.
Oh.
I tweeted, the government should provide all 16-year-olds with a free AR-15 after they pass firearm ed in high school.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't, then once you turn 18, you should be entitled to one free AR-15 from the government after passing a general knowledge test at the Department of Gun Services. Demand universal gun ownership now. Call your member of Congress and demand they pass this legislation. A lot of people said that I was trolling. I'm not. My point was that I saw all these memes from the left where they said, we should treat guns like we treat cars. And I was like, you think that goes only one way? They post these memes where they're like, got to get a license, got to get insurance, got to register the gun, all of that stuff. And I was like, okay, I can use that same argument and go the other direction. We allow 16-year-olds to drive cars. Okay, so 16-year-olds should get guns. We also have gun rights in the Constitution. So you want to argue for universal health care? I'll argue for my universal demand as well. Government should pay for my guns. But let me tell you where the juicy part of the tweet is at. Karl Marx said, under no pretext should workers surrender their arms and ammunition. The true leftist position on guns should be an armed workforce and the government providing guns to the people. It's just simple logic. Karl Marx, right? He said, never surrender your arms and ammunition. Well, if you're a socialist, you don't think capital is going to fund the creation of these guns, do you? It's going to be the government, and they're going to provide it.
Tim, did AOC retweet this? Is that what I'm seeing? Did she like and retweet this?
No. I'm saying no.
She will.
No.
You know,
that's strange. Why not?
I think the only problem I have with this tweet is that I don't think getting your gun from the government is the best thing, because
That's
if they
right.
really want to
Crappy.
conquer you, they'll make the gun have a defect and then give it to you. And they know how to exploit the defect in the
I'm
weapon.
not saying the only place to get the gun.
Oh, okay.
I'm saying you get a free one. So it's a net positive.
Oh, okay.
And you got to get you'll probably want to get it checked out. But universal gun ownership. They want to argue for universal health care. I'm like, okay, cool. Well, they say health care is a human right. I say gun ownership is a human right, right? Okay, well then the government can pay for it and give everybody guns. There we go. Any objections?
No.
All right, there it is.
I love it.
Your right
Carried.
to own does not dictate a right to receive.
Well, of course, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry for the logic.
I think my only question is, at the 30,000-foot level, what are we considering the age of adulthood? So if it's 16, and I know you can drive at 16, some places in rural, you can get your a farmer's license to drive a heavy equipment at 14.
Yeah.
Can't go on the road, but you can drive a $500,000 combine, right? It's pretty awesome. But there's another movement, though, to move the gun ownership age to 21. And I have a problem with voting at a certain age, but voting on something that you cannot fully own in a free society
Right,
at another age. I don't want to be able to vote at 18, but I can't own something till I'm 21. There's the movement, as you were saying, to vote at 16. So 16-year-olds are going to make law or vote for laws, but I can't fully participate in that law for 5 more years. So if we're going to have a real equitable society, to use their words, then if you have the right to vote on something, you must have the ability to have full participation in that.
Agreed.
So if we're going to make the voting age 16, then the gun age is 16, but then the draft is 16. But I don't want my 16-year-olds sending my 21-year-olds to war, telling the 18-year-olds they can't have a cigarette, a beer, or a gun. So something is wrong. If we're going to say the age of adulthood now is 21 and we are a very immature society, then it's 21 across the board.
I have a darker interpretation of their desire for a 16-year-old voting age.
Well, they're stupid.
Well,
no offense to them
well,
listening.
It's not just
but-
stupidity. It's if you're an adult at 16, that means you can do more than vote.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
at what
yeah,
point can you have
good point.
sex with a 35-year-old, 16
And this
now? What are
is-
they trying to do?
This is why when they try and lower the age of adulthood in a variety of ways, I'm kind of like, what are you really doing? When you look at what's going on in these schools, the grooming, and I see these memes from these liberals on Facebook where they desperately try to conflate the grooming argument with banning books, and it's just like, I see this meme and it's, they want to ban books, and there's like an old man with a MAGA hat yelling. And I was like, I think they were concerned about the graphic depictions of adult activities in those books that were available to children. If you're defending that,
Yeah.
and you're doing it out of ignorance, or it's willful, then either way, the outcome is the same. When you come out and then say, kids should be, participating in governance at 16, it's like, you're creating a threshold for which we reduce the age of adulthood. Look, I don't know if 18, where that number comes about, because it certainly 200 years ago was, you were 13, you're considered a man or whatever. I don't know if I agree with that. 18 kind of feels okay. Gun ownership and all
For
these
everything,
things.
yeah.
You can be under 18 and have a gun if your parents take responsibility for it in most places, like in Wisconsin and stuff like that.
I mean, growing up, family farm, we hunted, from when I was a very young boy, but that was part of our culture. We were taught how to use a firearm, respect a firearm. And so it's this idea that a 16-year-old couldn't or a 14-year-old couldn't. I mean, use a firearm and be taught how to use it thoughtfully is it's bizarre to me because I grew up in that culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was shooting from the time I was like 10 years old.
Yeah,
My dad
right.
took us, we had like a little shooting range in our back 40. Probably not really on par with what the law wanted, but my dad taught us how to use it. He taught us how to be safe with it. He said, I'll give you $1 if you ever see the end of this gun while I'm holding it. And of course, he never gave us $1 because we never saw it and we understood how important that was.
Yeah.
But somebody on Twitter earlier today, I forget who it was, I'm sorry, tweeted, how many of these mass shooters were young boys raised by fathers who taught them how to hunt?
Yeah.
It's a very valid question. I don't think any of them ever have been.
They have no dads.
Of course not. Yeah, it's very sad.
So that's why when I, in the days after these shootings and we hear Congress stand up and say we need to pass this law or that law, this is the stuff, this is the conversation that we need to have as a country. Understanding who these individuals are, their families, the dynamics, the health, mental health, all that. Because you are so right, and whoever tweeted that, bravo to them, because that's spot on.
Yeah, and I remember thinking, I actually had this conversation before I left the healthcare field with one of my coworkers, and his dad wasn't really involved in his life, and there was a shooting, and I was like, this is terrible, but man, I think one of the things that all of these shooters have in common is that they don't have dads, and he's like, what? That's weird. I really have to think about that. He's like, that's a super hot take. I'm like, I think it's true. Sorry, I'm afraid.
It's a couple things. It's a dad to sit down with you and say, son, you need to understand responsibility and what it means to have obligations to your community. And it's also the moment when the dad bops you on the head and said, that was dumb. What are you doing?
Stupid.
You need
Also,
a strong leader to
dad to be like, how are you feeling?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Maybe like a dad who's got like long hair and is like a hippie with a bunch of crystals. Who
Yeah,
can tell
maybe
you
he used to
tap
smoke weed in his
For
20s.
example.
Yeah.
Look, but the point here is that I think that this conversation is just as valid as, hey, what about magazine limitations? What about the type of weapon, or what about the age that we should give children of, right? I think this conversation is just as important, if not more important. But you hear also oftentimes from the left, they will say, "Oh, here the right, here the conservatives go again, talking about family issues and about, knock it off. Come on, it should be part of the conversation."
Well, we should have a magazine limit. I really do think so. They should. We should limit them to they cannot be lower than
It
30.
can't be at least, yeah.
I knew there was.
There's a caveat
I saw the
there.
tail on the face. I was like, here it comes.
If we're going to look at
limit is how small it
society,
can be.
Yes.
I mean, if we're going to look at society for the last 4 generations or so from like the baby boomers on, and we're going to say that gun violence, school shootings are now the anomaly. Well, we have to look at that in context, right? And that's just all they want to look at is like, wow, suddenly there are incidents of shootings at schools. Therefore, it's a gun problem. Well, what else is happening concurrently, right? I mean, you can't just take one statistic and isolate it. And when you look at everything else that's happening, clearly fatherlessness is a huge problem. Sexual perversion is a huge problem. What I love about libs of TikTok, which is why they got banned from Twitter, is I just wish you would find some liberal teachers who are so enthusiastic about math and science as they are about their genitals.
Yeah.
These teachers,
Indeed.
these teachers
Valid.
make nonstop videos about telling their kids, and I told my girl, and it's like, dude, like, do you ever talk to them about reading? Right. So if you look at it, again, all these millions of statistics of 5 generations, you can't just look at the shootings and say, wow, that's an anomaly. It's a gun problem. There's lots of other things that are spiking. And if you say that, well, they're not happening, there's no correlation, then you're just a liar or you're politically motivated. Either the sexual perversion stuff is a huge problem. You mentioned the grooming stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, we have hardcore drag shows in children's second grade classroom, and we're supposed to pretend this is normal. Quite frankly, and this is going to sound hard, and I don't want it to come out the wrong way, I'm surprised there are not more school shootings because our kids are so messed up in the head. They're told boys can get pregnant. They have tampons in their bathroom. They play on girls' teams. These kids are so confused with everything. And then their teachers don't even want to talk about English and math. They want to talk about their dating lives. And in case anyone out there starts to text, you do know I am married to a guy.
Yeah,
right?
right.
So I technically am in the community.
That's right.
It's a community I hate. It's alphabet soup that is degenerative, that drives me insane. But we have to talk about these things.
the way the oppression Olympics go, you're out, Daniel.
I'm not a good one. Yeah,
you're a
Not a victim.
white man.
But I mean, there's a role for me to play in this because a lot of people, you cis people can't have these conversations. The cisgender
You are
people
cis.
can't.
Cis.
Am I cis?
Yes.
Oh crap! What does cis mean?
So
Not trans.
Not trans.
Yeah.
So Ian and I, for
Oh,
instance,
good.
would
I
be-
am cis. I
Yeah.
knew I was somewhat
What
up,
normal.
cis?
What you mean to say is cis-het.
Yeah, not
Cisgender heteronormative.
Yeah.
You are not
Heterosexual.
heteronormative.
Yeah.
None of those things are real.
I know, right?
I thought I was Irish.
Virtual reality.
All of these different words, I don't even know what they mean. They don't even have meaning. People
Well,
create
well,
them. They don't have meaning.
I got no problem with that. To be
That's
to
how
be
language
honest.
evolves, yeah.
If a group of language evolves. If a group of people are like, if someone isn't trans, what are they? They call it cis. It's like a math thing. I'm like, yo, I literally don't care what words you use as long as
Fair.
we're effectively conveying ideas to each other.
Are we?
But the problem is, it's not just the creation of new words. It's the corruption of existing words.
Yeah.
Like racism, right? That's been a huge problem for a long time as to what racism really means. Now, people can come out and say cis and trans and whatever, and I'm like, as long as I understand you, we can
Yeah.
have a conversation. But we don't understand each other anymore.
Ricky Gervais is being canceled from Netflix because of his transphobic jokes.
But they're
they're not transphobic.
but they- no,
there are
that-
jokes about trans people. There are jokes about Polish people. There are jokes
about
about
people.
Catholics.
But he didn't get booted, did he? I'm pretty,
Well, they were threatening to pull him. I'm sure Netflix can't afford to have any
no,
more.
Netflix
problems.
fired their diversity people. I'm pretty sure he's safe.
He's safe.
Hope so.
Yeah.
Hope
But
so.
I mean, it's not a transphobic joke. It's a joke about trans people. And if you're getting made fun of, welcome to the friggin' club. It's like I remember talking to a Mormon when Book of Mormon came out, and he was saying that he found it very offensive, Book of Mormon. I was like, as a Catholic, let me tell you, it's about damn time someone else's religion was made fun of by
Right.
mainstream culture. So welcome to being like everyone else.
Yeah.
And
That's what he said. Ricky Gervais said he thinks trans people should have rights and be treated like everyone else, and that's why he's going to make fun of them.
boom.
He's like-
that's
he-
what
he-
true equality is.
right.
It is. It means if everybody is equal, then everybody is fair game for being mocked.
I talked about this a little bit on Pop Culture Crisis a couple days ago, where we were talking like if a soldier loses a limb in the military in a war or something, you don't like you losing your you don't smash people for what they don't have, but. And maybe people feel like that. They're like, I'm not normal, so you're making fun of my non-normalcy, and that's really like getting me where I can't defend myself. I get that, but at the same, I don't like making other people the butt of my jokes. I kind of stopped doing that, just in general.
Although, one of the things, if I can, so I have hung out with a ton of guys in the military who have lost arms and legs because of Iraq and Afghanistan. And I've also hung out with tons of guys who are in the military and they're gay, or we have lesbian service members, whatever it may be. The way that you know that you are in with that group is when somebody makes a crack at you.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
I was with a guy, about 15 guys at Black Rifle Coffee Company. Most of those guys that they hire have lost limbs. They some of those guys, when they walk in, they'll be like, their legs, their arms are really loud and noisy because they're half fucking robots, right? The point is that they will make fun of each other about like, hey, quiet down, man, you're rude. We're trying to have a conversation, bro. And he's like, sorry, it's my knee, But they'll give each other a hard time, and it's this beautiful moment of like, that you are in a family, a brotherhood by just telling good jokes about each other.
There's a really great Wojak meme where it's a guy is leaving, and he's like, see you later, dickheads, and they're like, screw off, a-hole, and then it's like, F you. And then as soon as he's gone, they're like, that's a cool dude.
He's such
yeah,
a
yeah,
good guy,
he's
yeah.
great. Yes. And then it shows the women.
Oh, gosh.
And the woman's like, bye, honey, love you. You're so
Sweetheart.
sweet. See you soon. And then as soon as she's gone, what a bitch.
It's true, yeah. That's why I have fewer female friends, I think. But I wanted to say too that it does feel great when somebody makes a joke with you about something that maybe you can't even change, that you're just like, oh yeah, that's actually pretty funny. And I feel now
right.
like I'm part of your in-group.
Yes.
It's very valuable. It's an important part of
So
human.
much of it. Oh, sorry to interrupt there at the
No,
end.
you're
I
good.
wanted
Carry on.
to capitalize on what you were saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
the delivery. Like
Yeah.
if you can deliver it in an emotionally, in a loving way, then it's received in a loving way. But when it's in text, no one can
Amen.
sense.
Yeah.
Amen.
And they'll take Gervais's jokes and they'll put them in text and be like, "Look how horrible."
Yes.
Yeah, and the performance has a full arc. How did he get to that point? That was a segue. They cut all that out, and they just take the sentence, and they're like...
Context.
But I just love how all the hit pieces against Ricky Gervais are literally what he was complaining about.
Yeah.
He was actually talking about the woke cancel culture and how they're demanding special privileges because they don't want to be made fun of. But he was like, but everybody is equal, so we're all going to be made fun of. And then they write articles saying he's a transphobe and he's violent and he's dangerous. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah, but I mean, the alphabet soup, which is really run by just communists, like all minority groups in activism right now, you can't have it both ways. You can't say this immutable characteristic makes us so special and so unique and so different that we have to celebrate it, but we also want to get treated like everybody else, right? If you want to get treated like everybody else, that stinks. Because when you're treated like everybody else, you're standing in line, right? We all want, the Emerald Club status at the airport so that we can bypass all the lines and we can have a fancy drink. But equality is not fun. So the Alphabet Soup people, like, we want our special, and God, it's almost June 1, and then I have a whole freaking month.
No.
Oh,
But don't worry.
Flip your Ukraine flag and put up your
pride
rainbow flag.
Just unfollow all the brands and follow the Saudi Arabian ones, and you're good.
Yeah, that's a life
away.
hack. I love it.
You said something earlier, Daniel, I thought was really interesting, where you said you were almost surprised that there weren't more shootings.
I am.
I don't want to take away too much from where we were headed with the jokes and Ricky Gervais, because I love this conversation. But I've had that same thought, like, why is it not? But then I'm thinking about people driving on the road and how so many people drive past each other all day on the road, over and over, these hundreds of miles, 140 miles difference, 70, and they don't hit each other because they don't want to. And most people don't want to hurt each other.
No.
It's very, very, very rare, and it's more of an aberration on these kids that's causing it. I'm actually not surprised that they're trying not. People don't want that. That's like
look at the
a
tribal
desperation
conflicts.
tactic.
It can reach a point. So Northern Ireland, for instance, I remember I was getting a tour of Northern Ireland, and there's like a memorial for when a group of guys went and shot and killed another group of guys. And on one side of town, they're like, these guys were heroes, and another side of town, like, these guys were villains. And it's just like, there was no reason to do that. They didn't earn or gain anything. It was just pure tribalism. You can look at the literal tribalism with what we've seen in Africa, where one day one tribe goes out and starts beating and killing the other tribe for almost no reason, just the hatred within them. When you start to see some of these tweets where there was one guy who said, I wish all Republicans get cancer and die excruciating deaths, it's getting scary. It's getting to this point where you turn on the TV and MSNBC is not even trying to talk to you. But I mean, even we do it. We know there's a group of people who don't care to watch us or even listen to what we have to say, so we just eventually tune them out. But this creates separate spaces which is ripe for developing a hatred more and more for the opponent, for the other.
And that's the problem with a lot of our elected leaders. And Biden is president right now, so you can say, well, if you tell me Trump was president, that's a hypothetical. Biden is president, and he had his moment after this shooting to say something, and what he chose was nothing but division and attacking his political enemies. He did not offer the slightest sense of healing, of sorrow. He didn't even evoke the names and memories of these kids and talk about, just an evil in society. He talked about the NRA, and he talked about Republicans who won't pass common sense. He resurrected 40-year-old talking points. It might have been the election of 1976, right? And so I agree with you. We are falling into these rival camps, but if our leaders don't start.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.